I grew up in a home where I was taught about Jesus and kind of accepted it and thought, yeah, that sounds about right. And then I went to university to study chemistry. And at university, the guy who was one of the professors who I had a lot of interaction with really didn't like Christians. Really thought that the idea to believe in God, that was just ridiculously stupid. And he would often tell me that. And so it really knocked me. So my first year as a student, I found myself thinking, I think I've been brainwashed. You know, I only believe this because my mum and dad told me it. And that really set me off on a kind of questioning it as an adult and saying, is this really true? And one of the reasons I'm passionate about what I'm going to speak about this morning is because this is what convinced me that it's true. So I became convinced in that first year that Jesus really historically actually rose from the dead. And if that's true, then everything else falls into place. So that was my journey, and therefore I love science, I love evidence, I love thinking about these questions. But ultimately, it was this.
Let's not waggle on the tea. We want to get into it. So I'll hand over to you. Thank you,
Brilliant.
Jonty.
Great. Well, we just had read the end of Mark's gospel. This is how it ends. This is how Mark decides to finish the story. I wonder what you make of it. Does it strike you as a bit odd? Isn't it a bit weird? I mean, look at the last. We just had read. Look what happens at the very end. Let me just read verses 7 and 8 of chapter 16. If you've got that open in front of you, grab these. This is really going to help you this morning. Here is this young man who's telling these women who've come to look for the body of Jesus. They say, go tell his disciples and Peter, he's going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you. Trembling and bewildered, the women went out and fled from the tomb. They said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. And it seems almost when Mark finished his story. There's a little bit in italics on the next page, but that was almost certainly added later. Mark decided to finish his gospel with this. Does that strike you strange? You see, it does seem to me very odd because it seems so understated. There's no dramatic appearance of Jesus. Jesus doesn't turn up. There's no fireworks. There's no fanfare. There's no anything. All you end up with is 3 women running away, trembling and bewildered, and not telling anyone because they're afraid. And whether you are a Christian who's been around this stuff for a long time, or whether you're very, very new to this, that is a weird way to end your story of Jesus' life. That's not how we'd have written it. And I think the reason is because we live in a world that loves hype. So we love it when things are hyped up. So when the latest iPhone, right, take an iPhone. When the latest iPhone, whatever we're on, iPhone 12, I don't know what we're on. I'm still on a 5, I think. Anyway, when the latest iPhone is developed, they don't simply say, oh, by the way, there's a new iPhone if anyone's interested. It goes mad. The whole world goes mad, right? Social media is full of it. Then they hire these massive exhibition venues where they put on the lights and the smoke and they get celebrities to come and endorse it. And there's a fanfare and the phone is brought out. That's what we love. And this hype, it's a phone. And in a year's time, there will be a new one. And this one that was so hyped we'll hate it. We'll go, oh, have you only got an 11? Oh, I'm sorry. But it was so hyped. And if an alien had landed on our planet at that moment, they would have assumed that the most important thing happening in the universe was this thing. And so if you've got news to tell, you hype it up, you give it a fanfare, then you find some celebrities to endorse it. You say, come and be an influencer. Would you come and endorse my thing? We live in a world full of hype. But do you know what hype is? Hype is taking something ordinary and making out that it's extraordinary. And hype has a shape. Okay, I'm going to show you this. This shape is important, and we're going to come back to this when we get to the good news bit. Hype is this shape, right? Starts here, you hype it, hype it, hype it, but then it always goes, because nothing ever lives up to the hype. And yet this is often how we find ourselves living our lives, right? Oh, it's nearly holiday time. It's nearly holiday time. I'm going on holiday. I'm going on holiday. I'm going to Portugal. It's on the green list. Oh, no, it's not. It's on the... And even if you do get on holiday, I'm on holiday. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's going. It's going. On the last day, I'm packing. I'm on the plane. I'm home again. That's the shape. Even in small ways, I'm going to have a bowl of ice cream. I'm waiting for my ice cream. I love ice cream. I'm eating my ice cream. It's going, it's gone. And that is the shape that our lives so often take. There are things that we long for, things that we think are going to bring us happiness, things that we think are going to solve everything if we could just get there. And we hype it up, and then it's gone. Now, what you discover in the Bible when you meet God is that God is interested in anti-hype. In fact, God will deliberately act in such ways as to undermine this tendency that we have to hype things up. So just look down with me at these. We're going to walk just in chapter 16, so on page 62. I'm going to walk you through and show you completely anti-hype this moment is. Do you remember? Hype is taking something ordinary, building it up, and then it fizzles out. Have a look at chapter 16. For a start, let's see who the first people to witness the resurrection or to hear this news of the resurrection were. Who were the first people to hear the news? It was 3 women called Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James, and Salome. They were the first people to hear. They were not celebrities. James was one of Jesus' disciples, and James and John had been up on the mountain, and they'd seen this when Jesus was transformed. But James doesn't get chosen for this. It's his mum. Let's have his mum. Not you, James, your mum. And so God deliberately chooses 3 very ordinary people to be the first to hear it. And here they are. They're on their way to the tomb, and they're assuming that they're going to find a body there. And when they get to the tomb, the stone has been rolled away. And as they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe. Again, listen to that description. A young man dressed in a white robe. One of the other Gospels writers tells us that this was an angel. Now look, if this was an angel, don't you think that that would be a good detail to include in your story? There was an angel there, spectacular and beautiful and bursting with brightness. And Mark goes, there was a young man there, dressed in white. Do you not see? Mark is so understated. It's unbelievable. It's like he's deliberately taking all of the potential for hype out of it. And then the message that the young man gives. Don't be alarmed. You're looking for Jesus the Nazarene who was crucified. He's risen. He's not here. See the place where they laid him. Very matter of fact, this is what's happened. He's risen. And then verse 7, go tell his disciples and Peter, he's going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him. Galilee. And you have to understand that Galilee is like this backwater up north. You've got Jerusalem, which is like the capital where everything happens. Galilee's miles away up north. So this is like Apple deciding to launch their new iPhone in front of 3 people that no one in Hull. Is anyone from Hull? Oh, that's a relief. In Hull. You know, it's somewhere, it's fine. Hull's all right. It's just it's not important. It's not a hypey place, right? And these women run from the tomb, trembling and bewildered. Now, can you see that this is understated? Can you see how ordinary this is? God is not interested in trying to hype you up. He's not interested in trying to give you a false promise. He's not trying to sell you something that is so impressive. And this is always how God works. Throughout the Bible, God will deliberately act in ways to understate rather than hype you up. In fact, if you take this away with you, and I'd really encourage you to take this away, if you've never read Mark's Gospel, take it away and read it. And you will find that when Jesus did miracles, often what he did was say, don't tell anyone about this. He'd take people away from the crowds so that there wouldn't be a big crowd to watch, because Jesus is not interested in hype, because Jesus is not taking something ordinary, building it up into something extraordinary, which is going to fizzle out. Jesus is doing something else. That's what I want to show you now. Because although so many of these details are ordinary, there is something breathtaking. That you will discover. And hope has a completely different shape to hype. You see, hype is this shape. Hope is this shape. It starts, sometimes it gets hard, and then it lifts. And that is the shape I want to show you in Mark's Gospel. That is the shape that we crave. That is the shape we long for. That is the shape we love. That's why Nike, when they decide they want to have a logo to represent their company, they choose the Nike swoosh, because that is the shape of hope. They don't choose a droop, right? There's a reason that Nike didn't go, ew. There's a reason that that's not their logo, because swoosh, hope, is what we crave, and that is what we see in Jesus. So I'm going to show you now. We're going to walk through the details again, and I'm going to show you some things you might have missed. So let's go back to the start of chapter 16. Let me walk you through and just show you what it says. Firstly, I want you to see that there's something that's finished. Chapter 16, verse 1 says, when the Sabbath was over. Why would Mark say that? Well, Jesus was crucified on a Friday. We read of how his body was taken down from the cross and was placed in a tomb. And then he Sabbath day. And then when the Sabbath was over, this happened. Why? Why are we talking about the Sabbath? Well, the Sabbath was the day of rest. And there's another Sabbath in the Bible. Now, just hold on for a second, okay? Try and stick with this. And if you're new to this, don't worry if you don't get all the details. Just try and remember the big stuff. There's another place in the Bible where there's a Sabbath. You know where that comes? Some of you will know, right? It's right near the start of the Bible. When God creates this world, we're told he creates the world in 6 days. On day 1, he makes light and dark. On day 2, he makes sky and sea. On day 3, he makes the sun, moon, and stars. On day 4, he makes the the fish and the bird. No, that's day 5. Day 6, he makes the animals and the human beings. And on day 7, he rests. Why does God rest? Is it because he's tired? Oh man, that was hard work. I'm exhausted. No, God rests because he's finished. Resting is what you do when you've finished your work. So here is God creating the world, and now he takes his Sabbath. He rests. That is the sign that something is finished. Okay, here is Jesus come into the world. Jesus who came to save people. We saw this last week. Jesus who came to offer himself as a sacrifice to save people from sin, to save people from punishment. Jesus came, he died on a cross. Why did he spend the Sabbath in the tomb? Because he'd finished. He'd finished the work of paying for sin, of dealing with the mess of our world. He'd done all that was necessary. The work was finished, and now he Sabbathed. You see, the hope that our world desperately needs to know is that there is something that has been finished. You see, one of the reasons that we stress and we struggle and we constantly try and hype and build up is because we're desperately trying to prove ourselves. We're trying to prove that we're enough. We're trying to make up for the things we've done wrong. We feel guilty, so we try and we strain and we stretch. And all the time, the message of this is no, it's finished. There's a work that's been finished for you. Oh, look, imagine a famous painter, I don't know who, let's say, Monet. Monet says, I want to paint you a picture. And you say, Monet, that's kind, thank you. He says, I'll take a little time and then I'll tell you when I'm done. And about 3 months later, you get a call from Monet and he says, I finished your painting. Do you want to come and see it? He said, I'd love to. And you walk into his studio and there's the painting on the wall. And you look at him and say, that's beautiful. And then you say, do you mind if I add some stuff to it? A few more lilies? Another lily. Let's have another lily down here. And you get out your big stubby poster paints and you add in some more lilies and you put a sun in the sky. Right, what have you done? You've ruined it. Because the moment you add something to something that is finished, you destroy it. Here is the point: when Jesus died on the cross, he finished everything that was necessary to forgive you and to sort you out with God and to make you right. He's finished it completely. That's why he Sabbathed in the tomb. Which means there's nothing more for you to add. There's nothing more for you to do. You don't have to keep a bunch of rules. You don't have to go to church and give enough and be good enough and keep striving and striving and striving. You don't have to do anything because Jesus finished the work. That's why he rested on the Sabbath. You see, when you get to Claude Monet's house, what are you supposed to do? You're not supposed to add to the painting. You're supposed to pull up a seat next to him, sit down, and enjoy it. It's beautiful. And to sit with him and enjoy what he has finished for you. Do you know what it means to be a Christian? What it means to be a Christian is to sit with Jesus and enjoy what he has finished for you. He paid it completely. That's why he spent Sabbath in the tomb, because he'd finished. He rested. you see? There's so much more here. So that was just the first 4 words. Let's keep going. The Sabbath was over. They come, and they're coming to anoint Jesus' body. And now you discover not only is something finished, there's also something new. Look at verse 2. Very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise. Oh, come on. You've got to wake up. Very early in the morning. On the first day of the week, just after sunrise. Can't you feel it? Can't you feel it prickling with anticipation? Not with hype, but with hope. You know what it's like first thing in the morning, and a brand new day. When you get up, and you get up so early that you see the sun rising, and the hope that is contained in a new day. What happens here, Mark is telling us, is a whole new world has come into existence. This is the hope. Something has changed, massively changed. And again, very often, what you discover is that when God does something spectacular, it happens on the first day. It was the first day of the first month when God acts. And here is God bringing into existence a whole new world. By the way, I want you to, oh, hello, it's exciting. I want you to know, hello. I want you to know that Aladdin got this right, when they sang A Whole New World. I'm desperately trying to hold back from singing right now. That's what this day is all about. A new world comes into existence. And you know, this is what we crave. We crave something new. We love new things. Why is it that when you get a new notebook, there is just something in you that can't help but feel a little bit happy? It's all new. There's nothing spoiled in it. Here it is, a new page. Oh, it feels good. You see, could it be that we are created for something new? We live in a world right now that is old. We live in a world now that is decaying. We live in a world that is frustrating, where everything is going, where everything seems to promise so much but never delivers. Because we live in a world of decay. We live in a world where people get sick and things go wrong and it sucks. And what we long for is something new. We long for a whole new world. Well, here's the hope. On that Sunday morning, the sun rose to a new world. And this is what God has promised. God's great plan is to take this world, which is old and is broken and is decaying, and he has promised that he is going to make it new. That's where the Bible ends. The last book of the Bible talks about a new world. I'm making everything new. And we spend our lives desperately trying to get something new. And when we get something new, it feels good, but then that new notebook is spoiled as soon as we write in it. And the new phone that we get is spoiled as soon as the next edition comes out, such to the point that we hate the old phone because we want the new one. We constantly want new, and we will never be satisfied because this world is hype, not hope. It has nothing new that it can offer you that will survive. It only has things that will temporarily be new and then will fade. Here is a new that lasts. And that is because, so there's something finished. Jesus has done the work of dealing with our sin completely. There's something new. Thirdly, there's something massive. Did you notice? They're concerned about the stone. Who's going to roll the stone away from the entrance to the tomb? You see, that stone is massive, and it's Jesus has been put into the tomb and the stone has been rolled in front. And it's like that stone is like death rolled in front of Jesus. Bye. It's like death rolling in front and enslaving Jesus and keeping Jesus trapped in. And so they ask this great question, who will roll the stone away? Isn't that a great question? Who has the power to roll back death? Who has the power to reverse it? The stone rolls that way. Who has the power to roll it the other way? Do you remember videos back in the days before DVDs, back in the days before Netflix? Do you remember that? If you don't, but some of you do. The great thing about videos was you could reverse. You could rewind the tape and you could watch the whole film in reverse. And that's what they're asking. Who can rewind death? Who can roll back the stone? And then verse 4, it says, when they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had been rolled away. See, here's the deal. On that day, death was rolled back. On that day, death was reversed. That has never happened before. Before, the whole of human existence has gone in one direction. And it's the direction of death. It is from life to death. There it is again. There's the hype droop, because you can't. That's the problem. You can't find anything that will satisfy because everything is dying. It all goes that way. And if we're going to go that way, then we need someone who can reverse death. And that is what we're being told happened that morning. You see, death is a part of our world because we have rejected the God of life, the God who made us, the God who created all things. He's the God of life, but we said, we don't want you, we'll go. And so we ended up instead in a world of death where we die. But now here is Jesus, the one who came into this world to save us and to bring us out of death and back to life. How can we go from death to life? Well, you need someone who can reverse death. Jesus has done. And it's massive. You see, death is too big for you to move away. The stone of death that rolls week just after sunrise. This isn't hype, right? This is hope. This is something solid. This is something real. This is a fact of history that you can base your life upon. Which brings me to the last thing about this wonderful hope. There is something finished. There is something new. There is something massive. Death has been dealt with. And fourthly, there's something that lasts. You see, look what that young man dressed in white says. Don't be alarmed, he said. You're looking for Jesus the Nazarene who was crucified. He's risen. He's not here. See the place where they laid him. So they announce that this incredible message that Jesus has gone from death to life. No one else has ever gone that way before. And we might say, well, that's great. Bully for Jesus. Fab. That makes him awesome. But so what? We'll look at verse 7. But go, tell his disciples and Peter, he is going ahead of you into Galilee, and there you will see him. You see, here is the great message of that first Easter Sunday morning. When Jesus rose from the dead, he rose to go ahead of us. He rose to lead the way that others might follow in that death to life direction. I think one of the fascinating things is that as human beings, we are desperate. We are desperate for resurrection, for hope. This is why we love things like, I realize you may not love this, but some people love things like X Factor. Because X Factor is all about resurrection, right? You realize that. So here it is, okay? Here I am, I stand in front of Simon Cowell and all the judges and millions of people, and I clearly can't sing, but I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the fly. Why would people humiliate themselves in that way? Because Simon Cowell has the power to take people from here to here. This is why the best story is, I used to be packing shelves in Asda. My life was so empty and meaningless. But now, you see, there it is. There's the shape, right? But it's not. That's just hype because it doesn't last. Why do people play the national lottery, particularly when there's a crisis? In the financial crisis in 2008, national lottery sale tickets went up by 20%. Why? Because the national lottery offers you resurrection. You can leave your pathetic, miserable, little, poor life here, and you can be rich. And all of us have this craving. We're all looking for something that will take me to there. Well, here is Jesus, the one who actually can. And not just in this world, but can take you through death itself, who has gone ahead of you. You see, Jesus went into death and smashed his way out and rose to life forevermore. And he goes ahead of you, so that all who will trust in him might follow him through death to life forever. That's not hype. That is hope. And I guess it leaves all of us with a choice. Leaves all of us with a massively important question to ask. You basically have one choice. You either choose to live your life for hype. That is, getting as much as you can, having as much as you can, having as much fun as you can before it droops. Or you find a hope that will last you forever. It's that simple. And my job this morning is simply to point you to the one who can give you hope. This is life-changing. I mean, this is monumentally life-changing. To the point that you could know that beyond death is life forever. New life forever. That's it. That's Jesus. And that's the hope he offers. And it's the hope our world desperately needs. So I plead with you this morning, don't settle for hype. Pursue this hope. And if this is something that you already know, if you already know Jesus, well, let me tell you, this hope is you've ever dreamed. And we need to take hold of this hope and live for this hope and enjoy this hope and not be sucked in by the hype. Yeah, enjoy things in this world, but don't live for them. Live for Jesus, the one who gives eternal hope.